Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. If you guys are new here, my name is Nkenna. I am responsible for everything that goes on here. As you can tell from the title of today's video, we are going to be talking about picking your first nursing job. So if you follow me on Instagram, you guys have seen that I started my nurse residency on the 20th, which was Sunday. I celebrated 2 months of being in my residency. I just had my midway point, so I have about 9 or 10 more weeks, but I might come off of orientation early. So if everything goes according to plan and I stay on schedule and don't come off early, I'm going to be starting I'm going to start taking patients on my own, which I've already been taking patients on my own, but I will be flying solo, no preceptor, December 21st, but I think it might be before then. So I'll keep you updated. But I say all that to say this is still very new to me. It's very fresh, so I just figured I would give you the perspective of somebody who literally just did this a few months ago. So diving into today's video, picking your first nursing job can definitely be a very daunting task. If you're someone who only applied to one hospital, then definitely not. I mean, congratulations. If you got your dream offer, you only had to apply to one hospital. However, if you're somebody who applied far and wide and you got a bunch of offers, congratulations as well. But now the real stress sets in because you have to narrow it down and pick what is the best offer for you. And a common thought that I had when I was sorting through offers when it came time was, these are all good offers, but which one is the best for me? So I don't want you guys to get decision paralysis and sit around and just ultimately not make a decision or prolong it, whatever it is. I want you guys to listen to this, take some key points, and hopefully this helps the decision-making process a lot easier for you. So in total, I received 6 offers from various hospitals in various specialties, and I quickly learned that not all offers were created equal. So some deciding factors that you guys should consider when you're picking a job are as follows, and you don't have to go by all of these. These are just things that I considered when I was choosing. Pay. This includes base salary as well as differentials. Shift. What shift will you be working? Will you be working day shift or will you be working night shift? How long is your commute going to be? Is it going to be 15 minutes or is it going to be 50 minutes? Because when you put it in perspective, if you just worked a night shift, you're very, very sleepy, you're barely holding on. 15 minutes sounds a lot better than 50 minutes. What level trauma center is it? What level trauma center is this? So typically if you're in a place like a level 1 or a level 2 trauma center, you're gonna get to see quite a bit of things, but level 1, you're gonna see the most. Does this hospital offer loan forgiveness or do they offer tuition reimbursement? Next would be benefits. Does the hospital offer a concierge service? Do they have a on-site daycare center for your kids to go to? Do they have a gym? What types of insurance do they offer? Things like that. The next thing to consider would be, what type of unit are you working on and is this your desired unit? An example of this would be, I was offered a position on a med-surg unit. They were offering to pay $25 and some change. That was extremely low, like $3 to $5 cheaper, or lower, I should say, lower than what other hospitals were offering. So I did not accept it. And that is just on orientation pay. Once you're off orientation at the other hospitals, you would get another raise. So that was $3 to $5 lower than what other hospitals were offering. It was not on my desired unit, and ultimately I told them that I was not going to accept the offer. The next thing to consider would be staffing ratios. If you're going to be on a unit where you're getting 8 to 10 patients, then that is something definitely to take into consideration. Maybe you're going to have 4 to 8 patients. Another thing to consider, if you're in an ICU and they're saying we typically give you 4 patients, that, again, something to consider. I know that when I interviewed, the unit director interviewed me and she told me that typically people have 1 to 2 patients. However, on orientation, I was just tripled this past week just because staffing ratios are so low. A lot of people are taking crisis contracts to go travel for COVID. A lot of people are leaving, going to other departments. People are leaving the profession. So as a new grad still on orientation, I was tripled, even though I was told that it is very rare that that happens. And even adding a layer to that, I was told that new grads typically aren't tripled for at least 6 months to a year. The next thing to consider would be, is there opportunity for advancement on the unit? If you're somebody who maybe bedside nursing is your end game, but you want to be a charge nurse or a unit educator, or you want to grow within the company, then you need to investigate how likely is that to happen. I use the example of, I used to work at a hospital where a lot of those nurses came straight out of nursing school at 20, 21, 22. They've been there forever, and now they're in their 40s and 50s and 60s, and they're charge nurses or they're upper leadership, and they're staying in those positions until they retire. They're not going back to school. So the likelihood of a lot of new grads trying to move into these roles of becoming charge nurses or becoming unit educators, it's very, very slim. So that's something that you should definitely ask in your interview. And generally they were pretty honest with me in all of my interviews wherever I went. Some places did flat out tell me, we don't have much movement. A lot of people come to us and they stay with us for long periods of time. And I really respect that they were willing to tell me that up front, just so that I can plan accordingly. The next thing to consider is there a nurse residency? I do realize that a lot of places still don't have nurse residencies. Some people are still kind of just being thrown to the wolves. They have like 3 days of orientation and they're on their own. So if you're applying somewhere and they don't have a nurse residency and you do want to be taken under the wing of a preceptor, that's something that you should also have at the forefront of your mind. And then also, in addition to that, what is the length of the nurse residency? So I've had friends tell me that my nurse residency is too short. Some people have a nurse residency that lasts 6 months. Some people have one that lasts 1 year. Mine lasts 5 months, but I'm probably coming off again early. But the whole cohort, it is a 1 year type of thing. They check in with you up until the 1 year point, and then you're on your own. But in terms of the preceptor, new grad nurse relationship residency portion, mine is going to be right at that 21-week mark, so about 5 months. And then the final thing to consider would be the hospital reputation. I know a lot of people pick certain places based on the name and the weight that it carries because it sounds good. For example, in Atlanta, Emory and Grady are heavy hitters. I know in nursing school, a lot of people wanted to be at Grady. They wanted to get their foot in the door at Grady, just because there is, if you live here or if you work in healthcare, you've heard it. If you can survive at Grady, if you can work at Grady, you can go anywhere. And I've never worked at Grady, but I've asked people and they all say it's true. And then the same thing with Emory. People know the weight that that name carries no matter where you go. So if you are in it for the brand name, the designer name hospital, if you know generally good things about the hospital in your area and this is where you want to be, then that's something to consider. I do know that in Georgia there are hospitals where people are like, I wouldn't work there, I would never take my family there. So that's just also something to consider. You know, maybe you don't care about the hospital reputation, you're just looking for a job, but just throwing that out there. In the end, when it came down to it, I ended up using a decision matrix to decide on what hospital I was going to be working at. You can Google for more detail, but this is going to be like a very muddied, watered down explanation of what it is. You pick a few categories, you assign point values to them, and then you have the things that you are ranking basically. So hospital 1, hospital 2, hospital 3, and then you're ranking commute, pay, specialty, and point values are assigned to this. This is the x-axis, and this is the oh gosh, it's been so long, which is the XY axis. This is the X and this is the Y axis, correct? Anyway, so you could be comparing 2 hospitals or more, and you can put any point value. So it could be from 0 points to 5 points, 0 points to 10 points. But basically at the end of it all, you tally up all the points for the categories for each hospital, and then whichever one has the highest point value wins. And in doing this, it takes away the emotion. It is unbiased. You ranked it. If pay is the top thing, then if you say that pay is going to get 10 points, then across the board you fill out the points. If you say commute's not as important, I'm only going to give this 5 points, and then you assign those points as you must. For me, my top 3 deciding factors were pay, commute, and unit type. Before anybody says anything, I understand that pay is not everything. However, I am a second-degree student. I have loan debt that is accumulating interest as we speak and breathe. So I wanted to make the best decision, and me deciding to go work somewhere that was going to pay me $25 an hour was not the smartest, when I knew that I could go somewhere that would pay me $5 more, and then I would get another raise that was an additional $3 to $5 once I came off of orientation. It was just, that was, you know, the smartest thing for me. And then that's not even including differentials for night shift and for weekend. I understand that everybody's in a different situation. If money is not an issue for you, that is fantastic, that is wonderful. However, I work hard, and I want to capitalize off of how hard I'm working. So I thought in my case, it would be foolish not to take the offer where the money is the greatest. And it just happened to coincide with all of my other important data points. One thing that I consistently felt throughout this whole process was this fear of regret, but then also feeling sad when I had to tell recruiters no, that I wasn't going to accept the offer at their hospital. It's very hard to describe, and it's very weird, but they would always ask, why aren't you accepting an offer? And I would be honest, but I wouldn't be like brutally honest. I would just say, you know, it wasn't in my desired specialty, or I received an offer for hire. And sometimes they would follow up and ask, like, for how much higher? And I do know, like, at Grady, when they were sending out offers, the starting rate was $24.68. And since then, they sent a follow-up correction and said that they received an overwhelming response, and they raised the rate. So I think new grads now at Grady in Atlanta start out at $27, which that's pretty awesome, because it's on par with a lot of other hospitals in the area, and now it's actually a competitive rate. Because I know for me, I wasn't willing to accept that. I was like, that's a lot of money to miss out on. And I know that they said after 1 year you get a $6 to $9 critical care raise, but 1 year is a long time to wait. And I did hear from a lot of past graduates from my particular nursing school that many people did not make it to that 1 year mark. They got some experience and then they went elsewhere. So a good rule of thumb throughout this whole process is to verbally accept everything, but do not sign anything. Again, that is verbally accept everything, but do not sign. Do not put pen to paper on anything. It's easier to accept everything and then decline later than to decline everything waiting for your dream offer of $65 an hour with a massage therapist on hand, and you get all weekends off, and you get a bomb insurance plan, and you start off with 100 days of PTO. It's just unrealistic. So it's better to accept everything and then filter through your options that way than just turn everything away and then get to the end and you don't really have any offers that you want. One final thing that I would suggest that you guys to take into consideration when you are going through this process of selecting your first job, and really, I guess any job, but I can only speak to first job, is how was your recruiting experience? I know at my dream hospital, I applied early. I reached out to the recruiter before it was even posted. She had my email on hand. She had my resume. We talked, we chatted, we did a phone interview. She said she would follow up with me, pass along my stuff to the managers in the ICU. I was like, great, I'm going to be in the CVICU at my dream hospital. It's going to be amazing. I'm so excited. And then month went by, months went by. I would follow up, a week later, 2 weeks later, a month later. And then finally, she was like, oh, let's, get you in for an interview. Never followed up with an interview time. It's just, at every turning point, she was dropping the ball. So finally it got to the point where I was like, okay, I've received some offers that are pretty competitive. And although I'm really upset that I'm not gonna be at my dream hospital, I don't have to sit here looking destitute and desperate, like, please, can I just have a crumb of a job? So, I ultimately, when she reached out again after the first time of not giving me a link or a time or anything, any information about an interview, when she reached out, and it was like 2 weeks before graduation, And she was like, hey, do you want to come in for an interview? You still interested? I finally told her, I had some self-respect and some dignity, and finally told her, after many failed attempts to get in contact with you and you not responding in a timely manner, I assumed that you were no longer interested, and I took an offer with another hospital. She said, okay, great, thanks. And like, she responded promptly. And it was things like she would respond to emails at like 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning. She wouldn't respond for weeks. She wouldn't return voicemails, things like that. So that recruiting experience overall was very stressful, and she dropped the ball at every turning point. So I say all this to say, if your recruiting experience is stressful, if it's sloppy, that might be foreshadowing what it's going to be like when you get to this hospital system. So you just want to pay special attention about what's going on. Ultimately, I ended up picking a hospital that wasn't even on my radar. I know when I came into nursing school, I said I was not staying in Georgia. I was going to try and go to New York or to California. Really, it was to New York. But I mean, things happen, life changes, here I am. But yeah, I ended up picking a hospital that I had even said I don't want to work here, and here I am working in this hospital. So we'll see, you know, keep you updated on how life goes. But ultimately, the key takeaway is to decide what's important and go from there. So that is all that I have for you guys today. If you guys enjoyed that video, definitely hit that thumbs up. It helps a lot. And hit that subscribe button so you can never miss another video from me. If you guys think a friend would find this helpful, definitely share this with them. And I will catch you guys later. Bye.